All right, so we're going to talk about the 30-day Ayurvedic challenge that's coming up starting next week. I will update things as things start to get put together. So there's a lot of content already put together. It's just posting it, and it'll come up every week. All right, so I'll talk about that at the end. What I want you to do first is we're going to talk about a little bit about Ayurveda, but I highly recommend if you go to the website, so if you go to whenshifthappens.org, and then you check out the free membership. So you have to sign up for the free membership, and with the free membership, you get a couple lectures. So right now I have the Ayurveda Basics lecture, which I'd highly recommend listening to. So you have a basics in Ayurveda, because we'll talk maybe more about that, like Vata, Pitta, Kapha, but it'll be more general in the sense that I want to keep things flowing. Okay, so it's really important that you watch the Ayurveda Basics course that's free on the website. So watch that, and there's also an immune lecture. So I taught that in, I think, either April or May, and the lecture is on COVID, on our immune system, on our lymphatic system. Highly list that also. Some of the info is going to a little bit because there's a lot of new information that's come out, but still the standard of how Ayurveda looks at illness and specifically virus is a little bit different than Western medicine because viruses are just about impossible to kill. In fact, they are impossible to kill. It's about building your immune system. So we don't focus on killing the disease. We focus on building your immune system so it can fight off the disease, which is a little bit different aspect. So there's information on there. I'll be recording a new one, hopefully in the next couple weeks, because again, the new information, I want it to be updated, and the stuff I've been studying about the lymphatic system and digestive system is pretty significant. So that will actually be the next course that I offer after this, will be on lymphatic and digestive system. So that'll be coming up in like September-ish. So once I get the stuff put together. But anyway, so we'll talk about some of the basics of Ayurveda and what this clock means. So a lot of what we're going to be doing over the next 30 days is going to be based off of this clock. All right, so I want you to go ahead and write down this clock. So you've got a circle and you draw a line down the center and then an X through the center. It's the best way to do it. I've drawn it so many times now that it's mastered. I'm sure Jenna's got it mastered too. All right, at the top, 12 o'clock noon. So that'd be 12 o'clock p.m. At the bottom, 12 o'clock a.m., which is midnight. So 12 p.m., 12 a.m. All right. Across the center, you have 6 p.m., 6 a.m. on the other side. And then the X, you'll have 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 10 p.m., and 2 a.m. So just fill in the gaps pretty much. So it's 2 or 10, 2, 10, 2. All right, within the inner circle right here, you're going to see these names Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Get a generalization of it. You'll need to know some of the concepts around them. That's why I want you to watch the Ayurveda Basics course. But we won't be focusing as much on people's constitutions during the 30-day unless you're doing the group or the private session with me. Then we'll focus quite a bit on it. But the next time we do this, or the next time I offer a course, it'll be more focused on that, because that's kind of the next step. First, you need to understand the laws of nature, and then you can start to understand, you need to build a foundation before you can even understand your own constitution, because there's still the basic laws of scraping your tongue and brushing your teeth and a good hygiene that goes across the board. It doesn't matter what your constitution is. And for the most part, it doesn't even matter what the season is. So we've got the different constitutions that will fall in this, and this will be more significant when we talk about it next week. Okay, so at the top, so from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is Pitta, P-I-T-T-A. And then just opposite of that is 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., so the midnight time, is Pitta, P-I-T-T-A. Then we have the next section from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is Vata, V-A-T-A. And then opposite, so 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is Vata, V-A-T-A. The two that are left, so 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is Kapha, K-A-P-H-A, kapha, or kapha, depending on who you study with. All right, so just to give you a little bit of information about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So Pitta is that which digests things, that which digests things. And it can be transform and digest, kind of falls in the same thing, but we'll keep it with digest, that which digests. Vata, that which moves things. So we talk about any movement in our body, whether it be physically moving or the movement of our blood, the movement of our nervous system, that is Vata. Vata is doing that movement. Kapha, that which holds things together. So this means stabilizing, condensing, creating is a part of kapha. All right. Pitta is fire and a little bit of water. And usually it's a little on the oily end, but we keep with the general elements on this. So Pitta is fire and water. Vata is air and ether, or air and space. So I'll use ether, but if you read any information, it'll also say space instead of ether. Kapha is earth and water. So when you think of the elements, so in all of Eastern practices, they use the elements as the foundation for the practice. So whether you're studying Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, which is Indian medicine, we use elements. They're not the same elements, but they have a lot of the same concepts. Even some of our practices like acupuncture in Chinese medicine and marma therapy in Ayurvedic medicine have similar points that we use. We don't use needles in Ayurveda. They use needles in Chinese medicine, but we use pressure and vibration. So, but we use a lot of the same points, and that says a lot when we're using this, when we're two different medicines creating are using the same foundation for things. So when we're talking about the elements now, they're going to have different qualities to them, and these qualities play a part in all aspects. So this goes from what time of year, what time of life, what your personal constitution is, and then the time of day. So these constitutions, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, play a part in every part of nature. So when we get to food, nutrition is the last portion of the 30 days. When we talk about food, we even talk about the qualities of the food. So different foods are going to have Vata, Pitta, Kapha qualities. They're going to have either air and ether qualities, or they're going to have a mixture combination, and they're going to affect that particular constitution. So it gets really interesting. It gets very complex, but then it gets back to simple. Like you go back to the basics. You go back to, okay, what is this really made out of? So Pitta, with its fiery nature, is going to have more sharp, more intensity, a penetrating type intensity. This is good, and it's also the downfall. So a lot of these things are good qualities when they're in balance. When they're out of balance, they're definitely not good qualities. So if you've met somebody who's really sharp and intentionally mean, that's a Pitta out of balance. If you meet a Pitta person who is very funny and kind of spicy, but not intentionally mean, that's a balanced Pitta. So there's a difference. Just like Vata, if you meet somebody who's so spacey, you're just like, oh my gosh, nothing gets done because they're so on another planet. That's a Vata out of balance. A Vata in balance is one who's very creative energy, might be a little bit like, okay, pull things together a little bit, but they are going to be a little spacier anyway. But they get stuff done, but it might be a little bit longer than what most. But they like to travel, and they're going to be creative, and they're going to be flowy. That's a good Vata. Kaphas, a kapha out of balance is going to be very, very lethargic, very tamasic, we call it. So tamasic means lethargy, it means stagnant, really stuck in life. Not necessarily stuck in their ways, but more stuck by the fact that they feel like they can't get out. And then a balanced kapha is going to be just kind of like a train, just keeps on going, keeps on doing their thing, very reliable, and will always bring food to everything. All right, they're notorious for food. Z's laughing. So we want to appreciate the qualities, but you can see how the balance and imbalance happen. So those are more of the personal qualities. So in nature, these play a huge part. So pitta time of day in the middle of the day is the time where we digest the best. This is the time of day where we can be the most intense. So worst time to have meetings. Often the time when we have meetings. So if you haven't eaten before your meeting, I highly recommend it. You'll be more functional. So then we hit the Vata time of day in the afternoon here, and that's going to be our most creative time of the day. This is when you should have meetings, as long as you've eaten in the middle of the day. And there'll be a lot more about this next week. I'm going to give just general ideas. And then in the evening here is when we want to wind down. So this is when we go with the nature of Kapha. So Kapha is heavy, dense, grounded. This is when we want to use Kapha to help us go to bed by 10 o'clock. In the middle of the night, so Pitta, what does it mean again? That which digests things. So if it means that which digests things, this means that we want to be digesting not just food, we actually want to be done pretty much doing some of the digestion of food because we want to be eating early. When we get to the evening time, we want to be able to be digesting our emotions. So this between 10 and 2 is when we digest our stress. So this is when we detoxify at a cellular level. And I'll talk a lot more about that next week. This time of day is when between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. is the optimal time to get up in the morning. This is Brahma Muhurta. This is the time when we're most connected to our spiritual practices. So great time to practice meditation, really connecting with nature. This is when I do my chicken chores. You laugh, I mean, you can kind of laugh about it because it is kind of funny, but those chickens are really connected with nature. Last night I was watching a movie, which never happens because I don't have a TV, so I have to watch it on my computer screen. And so I was watching a movie and then came back out and it was dark outside and the chickens were completely paralyzed by the darkness. So if you've ever been around chickens when it's nighttime, they are completely paralyzed, cannot do a thing. You can pick them up and stick them in your pocket and they won't do anything because they're completely paralyzed by darkness. So I had to individually put them up into their thing because I had the door shut for their hen house. So it's interesting that they're so routine. Like right now, they're really pissed at me because it's their free time. So they're supposed to be out running around. This is the way we should be. And when we follow the Ayurvedic clock, when we follow these times, and when we follow this connection with nature, our body knows what it's supposed to do. When we go against it is when we fall into illness and stress. We can manage a lot more stress if we follow the rules of the Ayurvedic clock, which we're going to talk about in a lot of detail next week. All right. So the last little section right here, that's Kapha, is one of the only times that we're going to go against a constitution. So it's not very often that we're going to say, yep, go against it. Unless we're working on an illness, then we might say, okay, you're going to do things a little bit differently, or we're negotiating because we're trying to switch this clock around a lot. But this is the only time we go truly against Kapha in some ways. And this is when we want to move our body. So at night, we want to use the heaviness of Kapha to settle into the night and go to sleep. And then in the morning time, we want to move Kapha. So anybody who gets up at 6 a.m., like especially like this morning, the air was so heavy you could have drank it. It was so heavy this morning. And yesterday we had dew, almost like it had rained last night or the night before. So that means that the qualities of Kapha, that water, that heaviness is in the air. And this is when we want to move our body. So the best time to move our body is right in this like 5 to, I'd say more like 9 time. All right. And again, we'll get in a lot more detail about that because I believe the third week is the exercise one. So we'll talk about exercise and the importance and what kind of follows the rules of Ayurveda. So that's the basis on the clocks. Other parts to talk about. So the Ayurvedic challenge starts on Monday. I'm going to release the information today. So I'll be releasing week 1. So in case you want to get some groceries, some lemon water, if you want to read the articles, you'll have access to that if you're signed up. So you need to sign up on the website. So go to the website, whenshifthappens.org, and make sure you sign up for the 30-day free version if you're going to do the free version. Group version is going to involve a little bit more, and the private version, you get a lot of attention from me. So it just depends on what you're ready for. And you can always do the private version later on, or version of it, meaning you do extra stuff after you've established a week. But if you're new to Ayurveda, I'd highly recommend doing the free version just to get the basis and the foundation, because there's no use in us wasting private time to be able to build a foundation and basics. If you've already got a basics in it, then that's a good time to do group or to step it up and to go into private sessions. But that's stuff we can work toward, and you can ask me questions and get to know my personality and see if it fits for you. But so the 30-day free version, you're going to have assignments kind of every week. So when you go into Google Classroom, you'll see you'll have access to the free version, because I'll send you an invite from Google Classroom. So if you haven't received that, let me know. All of you should have received an invite from there. You have to accept the invite to get in, and then you'll be able to see the class assignments. So there'll be week 1. Actually, there's the pre-one is up right now. So it'll have the recordings. It'll have the links to these webinars. And then the next version will be, or the next one will be week 1. And week 1 will be clockwork and meditation. So Jenna will be teaching meditation a little bit. So we have that. Then the next week will be the next topic, and the next week will be next topic. But they won't all be released at one time. They'll be released as they come in. And then once the 30 days up, then they're all gone. So I want you to stay within the 30 days and really try some of these practices, and don't get overwhelmed by it. It's not worth getting overwhelmed. Just try a practice. And I'll usually say which practices are the most important. And usually if I suggest them, they're probably really important. But like tongue scraping, without a doubt, if you're going to add something to your practice that's going to change a lot of your body systems, that's one of them. And it's so basic. And you don't even need to have a tongue scraper right away. It's something you can purchase, after week 1, or once you start doing it. You can use a spoon to do it. Just, you might tend to gag on a spoon, versus the tongue scraper is much smaller and much more delicate. So I will have recommendations for all of that stuff. There's articles on drinking lemon water, tongue scraping, and oil pulling for the first week. And we'll talk more about that on Wednesday, because that's our class. And then it'll be posted up on the website or up on Google Classroom on Thursday. I might even get it up on Wednesday night, depending on how things download. Just sometimes things take a little bit longer, if you've ever downloaded and uploaded and downloaded from different things. So we will talk about this in great detail, and then we'll start breaking it down. So the first week we'll talk about sleep and the importance of sleep. And I feel very passionately about sleep, so much that I've completely changed my sleeping. And Jenna knows this, because she's been around me long enough now that from the beginning, it was like, oh, I was kind of going to bed, kind of getting up, but now I'm pretty stuck in it. And unless something comes up, which is, completely out of my control, or I really stick to it, and I strongly believe it, and I feel the difference of it. And we'll talk a lot about that. And then we'll go into exercise. So it's clock, sleep, exercise is week 3. So week 3, we'll talk about exercise and a little more about what it means, and how Western medicine looks at it, and how Eastern medicine looks at it. And activity counts. So when we talk about the 10,000 steps a day, there's a lot to be said about that. But there's also little exercise things that you're going to get. So during the first week, you'll get some free meditation classes with Jenna, and I think with me too. So you'll get my pranayama meditation class. And then week 2, we'll have pranayama classes, and we'll talk about the importance of pranayama. Week 3, along with exercise, you'll get yoga classes in the morning classes. And then you'll also have some other options. If you're on the higher grades, so if you're on the upgrades, you'll actually get into the on-demand course. So you'll get the on-demand with that, to be able to use the on-demand, so you can use it anytime. You get meditation, you get a cooking class, you get all this information, and then yoga, meditation, cooking class in the on-demand. So that's the upgrade. Private, you'll have a long health history form to fill out with me. You'll get a private session with me, and then you also get check-ins, so I can see how you're doing and how it's going. So it's just more accountability on that portion of it. There's also a different Google Classroom for that group or for those other two groups. So if you want just a little bit more boon and you know that you can dedicate the time now before school starts, if school is an influence on you, then it might be a good time to take advantage of that. Completely up to you. And you can always ask me questions. You can send me emails. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of in general, because I'm here all the time. So then week 4 is going over nutrition, and nutrition will be from the Ayurvedic perspective. That means that we'll talk about what Ayurveda and how Ayurveda looks at food. If we'll get into constitution and doshas later on, but I will kind of skim through them through this 30 days. The next time I offer a 30-day, we'll be more focused on that and less focused on all this stuff. So I'm working on the next portion of how that will look, because those do play a part. It's just, you have to build the foundation before you can start putting the house together. So I want to really point out that this clock is still going to override whatever this being is. All right. So let's see. Jenna, do you think there's anything else that I need to talk about? Can you think of anything? No? Okay, thanks. Yeah, everything's online. You have to be a member of When Shift Happens to be able to, access the information. If you have difficulty, sign up for the 30-day. I will automatically sign you up for the free membership anyway, because I go in and I do it on the backside. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. My email is camislagers@gmail.com. Super simple. You can text me. So if you have little questions, you can text me. If you have a whole bunch of questions, please email me, because then I can just go through and answer the questions as they pop up. But I really want to help you guys through this process. Ayurveda is the way to go. Like, it's nature's laws. It's very common sense once you think about it. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There's going to be parts that are going to be very difficult, especially people have a lot of attachment to when they eat their food and how they eat their food and what time they eat their food, and going to bed and getting up in the morning. There's a lot of attachment to that. But when we do things consistently, our body starts to go, hey, I know when to expect this. So I know what time, I know I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. My body knows I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock, or I'm going to be really close to it. So I start to get tired at 9:30 and heading in that direction. This is important because your body's producing melatonin. Your body is starting to engage in that behavior. If you know that you're going to be getting up about 5:30, 6 o'clock every day, your body will start to alert itself at this time versus guessing and waking up at really odd times. This is why consistency is really important. And those of you that are more Vata are going to be like, oh, I hate regular routine. You need it the most. So those of you with the slighter bodies, body types, the ones with a little bit more creative but scattered mind, you guys need it more than anybody else does. Pittas and Kaphas are going to do it anyway, because we're like, well, it just makes sense. Pittas are like, I need the research, but I make sense of it. Kapha is just like, just tell me what to do. I'll do what you tell me to do eventually when I make it my own idea. So the idea is I'm going to introduce you to a lot of great stuff. You take what you can and you do what you can. And Jenna and I are here to support you through that. Jenna's been with me now for a few years, so she knows how this works. So she's great at answering questions too. And she comes from a little bit different perspective because she's a little bit different constitution. So that helps out too, because we are kind of opposite constitutions, which actually is a huge benefit for anybody who studies with us. So what do you think, Jenna? You ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So this is Miss Jenna. She working on her meditation course. We're super excited about it because we went from having a physical studio to having now an online studio, and I fully embraced it. I know Jenna's struggling a little bit with it. It's perfectly understandable because I think I was ready to move on to something different. And I really enjoy this way because I can see more of you without having you physically in front of me. And we are creating a whole bunch of different information. Jen and I were talking about this last time after our last session, that we're really excited about being able to build a community and really work with people and bring people together, because in this time of COVID, we're going to see more and more feelings of separation and a need for community when we can't physically be together necessarily. And we can still make a lot of connections via Zoom and stuff like that. And that's why I'm giving the different options for the courses, the free version, The upgrade with group, building community, and then the private is also got that group aspect, but also the individual aspect, because individuality is not going to make it in this world anymore. It's going to be bringing people together and creating community that's going to bring it together. So I feel that we really set the tone for that. And I feel that Jenna and I are on the same page as far as we believe our yoga practices are more on the spiritual and personal growth end versus just the physical practice. Not saying that some of the yoga classes aren't challenging or not going to be challenging for somebody who hasn't practiced it yet, but it's about building, again, the foundation and knowing that the spiritual aspect, not talking religion, talking about understanding nature and having that tune in with nature and understanding our own bodies and how we feel when we're connected with nature and how we feel when we're following the clock, that kind of thing. So really, really creating curiosity around those things. So that being said, Jenna is going to teach meditation. She's got a great presentation for you guys. I'm going to tune out, but I'll still be here. I'm always still here. So we will give Jenna.
All right. Thank you, Cami. Yes, and like she said about, yes, it's a physical aspect of yoga, but the spiritual practice is just as powerful. And that's where meditation is a huge thing. I started coming to Cami's studio and really only practiced the physical aspect of yoga, the asana, and then I went through her training and did the meditation portion of it, and I fell in love with the practice, and I felt more in tune with myself and others around me that I really wanted to dive into it. And so that's how I got into teaching. And so what is meditation? It is a concentrated single focus on one point with loving kindness. So we concentrate on one thing. Often it is the breath. If you go into other meditation places and they do and all of that, but the breath is the more so the one that we use because it's constantly there. We can't go very long without breath, so that's why we constantly use that. And the loving kindness portion is also very important because our mind will wander. That is what it does. That's what it's trained to do. That's what our ancestors were able to survive by having that monkey mind. And so when we're able to concentrate on our breath with loving kindness and not getting mad at ourselves that a practice is perfect, and that's where the key aspect of the practice comes from. So the monkey mind is where our mind is constantly darting around and constantly moving from one thought to the next, and being able to slow that down, living in the present moment is very important. So the benefits of meditation calms us down. That's kind of what benefit is if you read about it. So if you reach a point where the feelings are kind of seen as unimportant. That's not saying that you're not supposed to feel feelings or have any emotions at all. You're supposed to, it's a feeling like fear, and then move past it. Use it as that driving force to keep you moving forward. And knowing that emotions are not permanent, that we're constantly moving from one thing to the next. Nothing's permanent in our life. Everything is changed. It brings you a greater clarity of mind, so you're able to cope with stress a lot better, while stress distorts reality a whole lot and makes us seem a lot of things like they're worse than what they really are. But we're able to use meditation and being able to cope with stress to be able to calm down and relax and not being so worried about everything that there is in the world. And because of the reducing of stress, reducing of the extremes of the emotions, we're able to work better with our peers or colleagues and just being able to get work done because you're focused on the present moment and not on everything else going on in the world. Meditation is a journey, so it's going to take time to get a practice together. And this is where quality over a practice means more than quantity. So the ability to sit still, even for a minute every single day, is better than doing 20 minutes of it once a week. So we want to be able to sit still and have that present moment experience more often than when we only do it for once a week. And yes, you can meditate while walking. That is a form of meditation, but being able to sit still and notice what's happening in the moment instead of going for a walk and noticing what's around you as well is very important. So there are two forms of meditation. The formal seated silent meditation is the one that we will spend the most focus on during this Ayurveda challenge, but there are plenty of other avenues to go through meditation and have that mindfulness aspect to it. Like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong all has a mindfulness aspect to it, but we want to really focus on sitting still, allowing ourselves to sit still and do nothing and notice our breath, because it's there, but we don't pay attention to it very often. So getting started, try to set aside a place that you can meditate. You don't have a room, many of us don't. We have families, pets, all of that going on. Try to be able to have your stuff readily available. So if you just slide it under a chair or a couch or put it in a cabinet, but you could easily take out a cushion or a bench, that would be the most ideal thing. And you don't have to sit on the floor to do this. You can sit in a chair. The most key aspect of it is you want to make sure that your tailbone and your feet are grounded wherever they are. So if you're sitting in a chair, make sure that you don't have armrests, or if you do, that they're wide enough so that your arms can easily rest without really touching anything. So you want to be able to stay poised but still relaxed. You want to be able to make sure you don't fall asleep, especially in the morning. Drowsiness is a big thing, especially in morning meditations. That's kind of what I fall into a little bit. But doing a little bit of movement even before practice or pranayama would be able to, you'll be able to stay awake enough to have that relaxed state, but yet stay alert. Really, there isn't so many special things that you need to practice. A comfortable place that you don't get distracted too much. A little bit of distraction's okay, but you want to be able to stay focused on your breath. Temperature, make sure you're not cold. If you are in a little bit more cold environment, grab a blanket. You don't want to be shivering during your practice. You want to be able to stay still and not have your mind wandering to the temperature of the room, but be able to stay right here focused on your breath. All right, I believe that is it for today. We will be practicing the meditation. So go find a comfortable seat in a chair, grounded, wherever you are, make sure you're grounded. And settle in. Close your eyes and just notice your breath. Notice the qualities of your breath. Notice your inhales and your exhales. And try to bring your breath into your belly. If you need a little bit more grounding, palms can be face down. Or if you need to receive some energy, flip your palms up towards the sky. Notice your physical body. Notice if you have any areas of pain or tension, and breathe into those areas. Notice your mind and your thoughts. Notice if your mind is easily distracted, being pulled in different directions, to the future or to the past. Or maybe you're able to keep your thoughts right here in the present moment, following your breath. And emotions and your feelings. Notice if your emotions tend to go to the extremes, either way too high or way too low. Or maybe you're able to just have slight waves through them. Maybe you have events of joy, maybe events of sadness. But then you're able to find a place of peace and contentment. What do you notice about your emotions? If your palms are face down, flip them up towards the sky. In a gesture of giving and receiving, notice your connection to spirit, something larger than you. Notice if this connection is strong and consistent, or maybe it's weak and inconsistent, or maybe there's nothing there at all. What do you notice? Now, once again, if you need to receive energy, you can keep your palms up. Maybe you need just a little bit more grounding. Your palms now flip down. And take this moment to set an intention. Maybe for the rest of the day, maybe for the rest of this practice, or maybe you set the intention for the next 30 days. What do you wish to achieve? Consider this intention already done. And come back to your breath. Inhale in and exhale out. Begin wiggling your fingertips. Bring a little bit of life back into your body. Palms come together at the heart center. And we will repeat 2 phrases together. The first one will be a thank you to your time, giving yourself a little bit of joy and peace in the chaotic world. So it'll be thank you, and then your name, and then I love you, and then your name. And begin. Thank you, Jenna. I love you, Jenna. May all beings on earth live with love, peace, and kindness. Om Shanti. Namaste. All right. There you go. Yeah, so if you notice your mind kind of wandering a little bit, that's completely normal. Usually I allow a little bit more silence in my meditation, but I wanted to be able to have plenty of time to talk to you guys a little bit more and have Cami have a little bit more time. But I'll post a morning and an evening meditation on the Google Classroom page, and I'll have those posted on Sunday evening, so you'll have one on Monday whenever you're ready. So, all right. Okay, Cami, back to you.
Thank you, Jenna. That was amazing. Woo! All right. So I forgot to do one thing. So I want you to grab your clock real quick. And I'm just going to ask you some questions, and I want you to go ahead and put it down on the clock. So what time do you usually eat supper? So I call the evening meal supper versus dinner. Dinner is actually at noon. So what time do you usually eat supper? And I'll explain why later on, why I call it what I call it. What time do you usually go to bed? And this means majority of the time. So during the week, during the weekends, it might be different. I know COVID's changed a lot of things for a lot of us as far as scheduling goes. So what time do you usually go to bed? If it's different on the weekend, just say weekend bedtime. If it's work day or work week time, then write that down. Do you wake up in the evening at any time? Do you have that 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock where you wake up to go to the bathroom and then have problems falling asleep? Write that down. What time do you get up in the morning? And again, if it varies, mark the variance. And if it's just like a half an hour, you can just kind of scribble a half an hour mark in there. What time do you eat breakfast if you eat breakfast? What time do you eat your noon meal? Do you snack at all? Write those times down. What time do you have your bowel movements? And then what time do you exercise? And for me, like I have a exercise that I do in the morning, and then in the evening I go for a walk, and that counts. So if you do an evening walk to kind of wind down and reset, and I'll talk about all that in more detail later. All right, so that gives you an idea of where you're at, so that when we meet next week on Wednesday, or if you watch the recording later on, that you'll know a little bit more of why these things maybe need to be changed a little bit, and what the importance is of it. If you have any questions, you can email me, or and then make sure you sign up for the class. So whenshifthappens.org, and then go to the subscription page, and then you can fill out the health history form along with the information that's there, so that we have everything. And then I will get you into Google Classroom once that's complete. And I'll make any changes. So if you can't figure out how to get both the free subscription and then the free membership, I'll take care of the membership end. So just sign up for the 30-day, and then I'll take care of that as soon as I see things pop up. Otherwise, I think that's it for right now. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and activate your speaker or Cameron speaker if you have any questions.